Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are almost done with this mission. We just need to install the P6 truss on the port side. Now, we can rotate this rotation servo to make this a little bit more useful for us, hopefully. So I want to... oh, that's very wiggly. Okay, it'll settle in eventually, and we need to figure out about what angle we want it to be, which I think is going to be... somewhere around here. Now, this is strutted, so it should eventually settle down. But for the time being, it looks like it's going to be somewhere around here or so. We have it at a bit of an awkward angle overall, but that is fine. Now, we are, of course, heading on in to the truss over here, and we're going to have to rotate this appropriately, but that is fine for the moment. Let's just head on in a bit. And we're going to head in at about half a meter per second for right now. But we know we need to go a little bit up, and we need to go a little bit from our current perspective over to the right. So I'm going to take this, we are currently about inversed, so down. And I want to be pointing at target. And I want to take this over a little bit to the, from our inverse directionality, left. And we actually need to go a fair amount left here. We need to line this up a bit. And it'll be somewhere around... somewhere around this vector or so. Okay. So that's quite a lot of leftward directionality. That's absolutely fine. We don't mind that. We're going to have to get the rotation angle of this about correct, so we're going to have to come to a halt eventually. But for the time being, I'm content with this direction. Pretty soon, we are going to be at approximately the correct vertical position. But that is not a right now sort of thing. Yeah, we're almost there. But I think just a little bit further here. Okay. About... I feel like we need to go just a little further. Let's just warp this a little bit here. Yeah, about here or so. Okay, so I'm now bringing this over. Killing some of this momentum here. We are in approximately the right verticality, and we are in almost the right horizontal position, too. Of course, we're going to need to set our overall angle to be a bit better, but that's okay. So let's bring this right on over so that we are going towards the target. Now, this is also removing most of that forward velocity that we ended up going for, but that's okay. So we're just going to position it here so that we are now heading towards target. And what I want to do now is I want to control from here. So that means that we're going to rotate a bit, like so. And we also know that this needs to move our velocity a little bit. So our velocity is now towards target. Now, to make this a little simpler, I'm going to hop over to the station here. We're going to control from this docking port, and we're going to set this docking port as our target, and we're going to point at that target. So I just want to make sure that we don't have any awkward directionality here with regard to the station, because we're going to need specific positions in terms of our rotation. And we are not in the correct position for that right now. So let's take a look at our current position. It's actually kind of close. It is kind of close. But I think we need to rotate it around this direction a smidge. And just bring it to about there. Now, I'm not convinced that this is an ideal angle for it. It's close, but I think we need to bring this section down a tiny bit. Something about like this. But as we get closer in, it will be easier to determine. It's close. No doubt about that. It's close. But let's just bring this in, and we are going to warp in a little ways here. We'll have to do some corrections, of course. So let's take this into about 15 meters out, and then we'll run a correction. So we are 15 meters out as of now. And let's do some correcting here. That will clearly need a little bit of correction. We drifted a bit. And now I want to eyeball our lineup here. Actually, it looks pretty decent. Hopefully we're coming in with the right attitude here. I want to take a look at the configuration here. Let's see here. Going towards the nadir. Okay. So, I mean, that is fine. We do have one going, a thermal control system going towards the nadir port. So, in actuality, the question is, for the P6 truss module, is this a correct directionality? So the P6 truss, I want to see it in its final position here after the relocation of the P6 truss module. Yes, just in the nadir direction. Okay. So it would end up looking something like this, right? Which is broadly similar to what we have, although apparently they did this before putting in the Harmony module, which is fine. So what I'm looking at here is this radiator. Okay, that's absolutely fine for the moment. So let's do a little bit of correction here. I think this is fine for our directionality, all things considered. Hang on a moment. No, it isn't. This isn't fine at all. Okay, let's bring this to a halt. Other direction. Let's bring this to a halt. We're seeing some swaying here on the station side. So I'm just going to park it here. And station, you can point to target. Or just kill rot. There's definitely some swaying happening primarily on the ends and in the Russian segment. Okay. That's noted. I've not been noticing this swaying otherwise. So that's intriguing. I'm going to freeze the physics here. Okay. And we do actually have this in the wrong orientation. So we need to rotate this guy about 90 degrees here. So it'll end up being about here. Was that more than, that was more than 90 degrees, I'm pretty sure. So we're just going to position it about there. Then we know that we need to go like this way. So from our current perspective, this is going to be this vector, I think. Hang on. This vector. Okay. That's reasonably fine. And we're just pulling this over here. We're going to need to adjust our lineup, no doubt about that. This is looking much better. Bringing it to a halt. Okay, so something approximately like that. Now, as far as our actual lineup here goes, this would be a lot easier if the station wasn't wiggling around like a crazy person. Okay. We're going to need to go from our current perspective down a little bit, which ends up being this way. Okay. So just bring that down a little bit here. We need to just get this lined up slightly better. Something about like that. Cool. Now what I want to do is I want to head slightly away from target, actually. Not... No, I changed my mind. We're not going to head away from target. We're going to head towards target here. But very, very slowly. So what I want to do is I want to line us up about here. And check our lineup situation. It's pretty good, I think, in terms of the actual orientation. Now, it looks like we're coming in at a slightly awkward angle here, but I think it should be relatively fine as long as the station doesn't start massively swaying again. We can, however, slightly rotate the station to be here. Okay. Now I'm going to adjust our velocity a little bit. Checking in on our rotation. It looks pretty good. I think our rotation is about as good as we're going to get it for right now. And yeah, this'll do the trick here. So that'll be excellent. We're going to need to strut this together once we get this put in, of course. We'll want to add some stability to the station. But this is the final component of this particular flight. So that'll be great. That'll be great indeed. It is interesting that they apparently relocated this before installing the Harmony module, but that doesn't really matter to us all that much. So inward we go here. This should be a quite clean docking, in theory. We are picking up a little bit of rocking. I'm going to put this onto kill rot. Okay. And there we go. We did indeed dock cleanly. I like it. Little bit of rocking there at the end and going on to kill rot, and a little bit of manual changing of our velocity, but all things considered, that went quite well. So we're going to have Bill EVA here, and Bill is going to look to put in at least 2 struts over here. So I want to, let's see, we want to grab this strut here, but do we want to do this now? And we'd need to grab another strut out over here, right? So let's let go for the time being. Let's have Bill store his parachute in the cockpit. We're not going to be needing the parachute anytime soon. Okay, now we're going to head up over this direction where we know that we should have a spare strut. And we're just going to grab on here. There should be a spare strut around here somewhere. We know that we have extras. Okay, Bill, grab on. There you go. Yeah, here's one. So we can grab this strut, and we cannot actually carry that. Okay, that's mildly awkward, but we could put it over here. There we go. And that'll at least move it down to hopefully be in position so that we can grab it from this ladder. That would be ideal. So for now, we're going to hop down this direction, grabbing onto this ladder. Yes, it is indeed in range. Perfect. So we're going to grab on, and we are going to grab this strut, and we're going to want to strut it from about here to about here once the game gets caught up. There we go. And then we can grab this strut, and that would go from about here to about here. Again, once the game gets caught up. Fantastic. Now we can hop in, and we can undock the shuttle. So we are going to release our advanced grabbing unit. There we go. And we're going to disarm our advanced grabbing unit. We can now stow this away, and we're going to retract that. This guy is going to have to get rotated over to 0-ish degrees. I guess -1 degree is fine. It doesn't actually matter. We're just looking to stow this away. And there we go. We can stow this as well. And we can close our cargo bay. I do want to bring us away from the station a bit here. So we're going to go in the down vector and just pull ourselves a bit away from the station. We don't want to impact the station, after all, as we turn. So we're just going to get a little distance here. Hopping back over to the station, we can now unfurl our port gigantors. I'm not loving the amount of sway that we're seeing on our truss structures. I've not noted that previously. How can we go about boosting the stability of our truss structures? Well, for one thing, we can just turn the smart ASS completely off. That is an option. No doubt about that. And we need to extend these gigantors as well. There we go. Definitely a little more space between our Gigantors than there is in the reality photos, but that's, I guess, okay. Yeah, it feels like there's like one less strut here, but it'll do. It'll definitely do. Yeah, I like it. Things are progressing nicely. So I want to check here. Yeah, that's all strutted together there. Yeah, there's just a tiny amount of flex there. Ultimately, I don't think there's too much that we can do about it. We're at the pretty much extent that we're going to have out over here, right? So that's reasonably okay. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to just head home. We need to bring these guys home. It's been a long mission. So we're just going to hop over to orbital retrograde. And it looks like this is going to be a safe direction to burn in. Nice and away from the station. I like it. So let's just bring them right on home. Away we go. Goodbye, station. Phenomenal. We're going to bring our periapsis height down as usual to around 70 kilometers, and then we'll do a braking burn once we get to that periapsis. We're not going to be too concerned about where we end up landing. Excellent. As soon as the station unloads, the frame rate will get a lot better. Turns out that thing is pretty complicated. No doubt about that. And it will unload fairly soon. We're about half a kilometer away. We got to get further away, of course. About 2.3 kilometers for it to load, but I think it's a little bit more like 3 kilometers to unload. It seems to be different values, just based on my experimentation. So that'll be absolutely great. Let's bring this right on down. Jeb, Bill, Bob, and Valentina have been up here for a while, no doubt about it. That was a complicated mission. There were a lot of parts to that. We had to do functionally 3 relocations and a new hardware install. That's a lot. No doubt about that. So we're still about 2.5 kilometers away. There we go. It was 2.5 and the station unloaded. Perfect. We're at 70 kilometers and that frame rate is so much better. I like it. So at this point, we are going to hop down to the periapsis, add a maneuver here, and we're just going to bring this right on down to, I think, around 10 kilometers. We've been having decent luck with that. Comes down relatively quickly, and I like it. So right about here. It doesn't really matter, this maneuver, so let's just get aligned. Excellent. And let's warp. So that'll be about 20 minutes until our braking burn here. Gonna shed about another 300 meters per second once we get there, and that is magnificent. About a 42-second burn, and we are going to physics warp it. I don't like to physics warp while in proximity to the station, but we'll absolutely physics warp here. But proximity to the station, that could be mildly problematic. Will not do that, thank you very much. Okay, so our periapsis height is currently about 30 kilometers. 20, and 10 kilometers. That is good enough. So let's head over to horizontal velocity up. Let's remember to vent the fuel, otherwise our aerodynamics are even worse. There we go. And let's rotate our wings right on over. We should be entering the atmosphere quite soon here. There we go. And let's physics warp our way down. We're going to be coming in on the day side. This looks like it's likely on this trajectory going to be a water landing, but I'm very bad at predicting this. I'm almost certain, though, that we're going to land in this body of water. That seems very likely. This is pretty close to the Woomerang launch site, so that's kind of neat. And, of course, the desert airfield is out over here. Kind of the opposite side of the planet from the KSC, but that's absolutely A-okay. We don't mind that. So inward we come. I mean, we are going to lose out on some recovery money from landing this far away from the KSC, but it really, really doesn't matter, so that's fine. We're at surface velocity up at this point, and our periapsis height is almost impacting. So we can see that we are not going to go any further than here, but we're not going to go there. Yeah, we can see that this is jumping forward pretty steadily at this point. I do expect that we're going to land in this bay here, which is a good place to land, all things considered. Yeah, we're definitely going to land in the water. I actually guessed it right this time. Absolutely, we're going to be landing here. Phenomenal. So we're slowing down nicely. We need to slow down a lot more before this becomes maneuverable, of course. A water landing means no landing gear, so that is fine. Probably ideal, in fact. That said, we are going to glide a ways, but I don't think that we're going to end up landing somewhere around here, I think. I don't think we're going to glide all the way up to there. That's pretty unlikely. We maybe could if we deliberately tried to glide that far and just not lose speed, but I don't think it's worth it. I think that we're going to dive down and just go for that water landing. It's completely okay. We are down to 1,300 meters per second here. Make that 1 kilometer per second. 900, 800, 700, and things are looking much more controllable at this point. So now I want to dive us down a little bit. I would like... Ooh, that's very down. That was 2 down. Okay, we've entered a bit of a spin here. It's okay, we can recover it. So I'm going to go to surface velocity up here. Beautiful. This thing doesn't fly very well, but it's also very hard to break. So that's a good thing. I'm just going to put us on kill rot right now, and we're just going to dive down like this. We're a little too high right now to properly go in for a landing. We don't want to be going too slowly, remember, because if we end up going too slowly, then we don't have enough horizontal speed and we just drop straight down. And that's really, really, really bad. We do not want to do that. So we're going to come out of this dive at maybe around 2 kilometers, I think. But I'm not going to do the horizontal velocity up here. I'm just going to kind of cautiously pull us out of the dive. I'm concerned about losing attitude and pulling up too sharply and losing control of our nose-up maneuver. That's what I'm concerned about here. So we'll see how that ends up going. We're at about 2 kilometers now. So I'm just very gently nosing. That's what I was concerned about right there. Okay. Chutes are going to go out in order to help us be a bit under control. And we're going to go to horizontal velocity up here for our smart ASS. Yeah, this was the concern. Luckily, I think we do have it under control thanks to the chutes. The real concern here is, do we have enough horizontal speed to pull this off? And it looks like the answer to that is actually yes. Barely. Barely. That nose-up maneuver is a complicated one to get right. No doubt about that, but we barely had enough to pull that off. To be clear, that would have been fine for a land landing as well. We would have been okay to land on our landing gear for that. So that's okay. I'm not going to call that a great landing, but as I've said before, any landing that you can walk away from is a good landing. So we'll bring this back. We'll get our payment for that kind of crazy mission. There was a lot of components to that, no doubt about it. The next mission is, I think, going to be considerably easier. So taking a look at the next mission, that'll be the Columbus European Laboratory. Okay. Yeah, that'll be considerably simpler to install. Where does that end up going? If we take a look at the chart here, that ends up going... This is the Columbus European Lab right here. So it ends up going onto the starboard port of Harmony. Okay, that should be very basic. No problem whatsoever there. Of course, we need to get our payment for the Harmony module. So let's grab that quick. Phenomenal. And that will be wonderful. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, up goes the Columbus Lab. And we'll see if we make that be an actual lab or not. We do already have an actual lab, but I think the Columbus Lab is a little stubbier. We'll see. You can leave our offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.